Hey, so I had told you all that I was going to do chapter summaries of 2001 Space Odyssey, and I said that I was going to do a book club of sorts, and that was about maybe a month and a half ago. And at that time, I've quit my job. I'm writing now full time. I moved. There was a lot going on. I went to New York for vacation to see family and things like that. But now I have the time. I'm actually 20 chapters into 2001 Space Odyssey, but I'm just going to go through the first 6 chapters and give my breakdown of each chapter and my thoughts, my 2 cents. So I'll start with chapter 1, which is titled The Road to Extinction, and then I'll proceed from there to all the way to chapter 6. So in The Road to Extinction, in chapter 1, we're in this setting where it's prehistoric Africa, and we're following these tribe of man-apes, the author calls them. And we see that these man-apes, they live in fear. They don't have any true defenses. They have no technology. They have no weapons. They have no language, essentially. And yeah, their day-to-day is very short. They do a little gathering of some food, and yeah, before the sun sets, they make sure that they're in their caves, and they're just continually living in fear because of the elements of the world. And one of the element representations of the things that man fears, or what these man-apes fear, is this leopard that continually is a constant threat to them, going into their caves, killing their people, seemingly at will with no repercussion at all. And so this is how these people are living, or these man-apes are living. And then within the chapter, there suddenly appears this structure. The author calls it a monolith, that it just appears in their area. And there seems to be some sort of I'm going to call it divine intervention with this monolith, and it helps these man-apes become more intelligent and wiser and more human-like. Being this is a work of fiction, I think it's pretty cool. It's very imaginative. Not really a fan of the evolutionary theory type thing where humans started out as man-apes, but that's neither here nor there. That's not really the topic of discussion, right? This is just giving 2 cents about this work of fiction, which is pretty good so far. And I don't know if I remember telling you guys or not, but I have never read 2001: Space Odyssey, and I've never seen the movies either, so this is the first time for me through and through. So after this first chapter, after we're introduced to Moon Watcher, who's the main primate character, we go into chapter 2, where this monolith starts to influence these man-apes even more, but more so with Moon Watcher, because he already seems a little bit more distinct, and now with this monolith, this extra divine presence, he seems to be the one that takes the most influence from it. And so in this chapter, they start building tools, and this constant threat that these primates have been experiencing with this leopard this leopard just goes into their caves and takes what they want, right? Moonwatcher has the idea to take the tool that he created and use it as a weapon. And so he takes this bone-like tool, I forgot what it was used for, and essentially he kills the leopard with it. And this chapter kind of signifies man's knowledge, with the new technologies that they build, they're able to grow in confidence, and that confidence produces, we'll see in later chapters, a whole different type of world. But so now that these man-apes are able to conquer things of nature, their confidence emboldens. And in chapter 3, Moonwatcher's confidence has extremely emboldened, and there is a rival clan that's, I think, across the river, across the way from where they're at, and they come to this meeting point at a body of water, and it's, starts off with just threats of yelling and screaming and what have you, but it seems to me, as I read the chapter, that, or at least this would be my interpretation anyways, of if I were Moonwatcher, is that there's this rival tribe. Their leader is him and Han, like, threatening from a distance, and to me, I believe that Moonwatcher saw this other tribe as a threat, especially its leader, right? And so he takes that tool that he had and essentially turns it into a weapon and kills the leader of the other tribe. And so, with this new power that Moonwatcher has, there comes this confidence, and he essentially, to me, is ensuring the safety and the prosperity of his people by taking out the leader of the rival tribe. And what ends up happening is that the existing tribe people end up joining Moonwatcher. So in this situation, I think it's for the betterment of quote humanity, or for these primate type people, because you're looking for solidarity, right? You're looking for unity. And if you have two competing leaders, that's going to lead to division and war and chaos. So, anyways, that's kind of what happens in that chapter. And so we'll go into the next chapter, where it's pretty short from what I remember. And what occurs here is that the Moonwatcher and his tribe people, they go into the leopard's cave. So the leopard that he had killed in the previous two chapters, they go into that leopard's cave, and this chapter was essentially a reclaiming of old territory. So that leopard had taken that territory from them in the past, and this was a reclaiming of it. And this chapter kind of symbolizes the conquering of your fears, of past fears. Like I said, it's pretty short, and it's pretty much all that happens in that chapter. And then we finally get into the chapter before we get into the New Age, and it's the end of this main ape series with Moonwatcher. And in this chapter, we jump, I think the book says hundreds of thousands of years. And with this jump in time, with the technology that Moonwatcher, these primates have gained, and his offspring after that, and all these generations afterwards, with these technologies, because of these technologies and these tools and these weapons, the way that we eat and we move, and just our day-to-day with these technologies, and how they change our living lives, or our living situation, the author seems to indicate that with these technologies, our physical bodies started to change. We became, less hairy. We became less physically defensive, because our mind was becoming sharper, was becoming the ultimate weapon. And this all stems from the monolith, right? So there's divine intervention with, I'm calling it divine intervention within each of these chapters. So in chapter 1, right, that monolith is introduced, and it's the start of human development with these primates. So it's an introduction of knowledge and wisdom and understanding. And with this monolith, as it continues to influence Moonwatcher, he builds these tools and these weapons, and because of the monolith and the knowledge that he's gaining, he's being emboldened, he's being encouraged, he's being strengthened. There's a power that comes with it, with this divine intervention, and Moonwatcher and his people have it. And from him, after thousands and thousands of years, we come to humanity. We get past the Ice Age. The author talks about developing speech and philosophies and other things of that sort that are of an intelligent mind. And then as these hundreds of thousands of years go by, the monolith disappears. We don't know what happens to it. And we really don't know why the monolith was there to begin with, or how it was there to start. So I would imagine that gets answered later on in the book. But that is my breakdown for the first portion of the book of Space Odyssey 2001, or 2001 Space Odyssey, sorry. Love to get your thoughts, your opinions. I plan to do this every week, so I'll do the next arc here next week, and we can talk about that then. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a great week. God bless you. See you.